Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to today's show. Boomer and Gen Xer walk into a bar, coming to you from the Rabbit Hole Studio, where you, as our listeners, will experience some wit and wisdom, some smartassery, and this mother and that daughter questioning, are we even related? My name is Jane, and my co-host is my daughter Bobbi, and for the next several minutes, we are here to entertain you. How are you doing today, Bobbi?
I'm doing good today. It's raining, but it's getting nicer. So.
Yeah, and we needed the rain too. That's for sure.
The old people, we really needed this rain.
We needed the rain for the crops and for my garden. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Well, those are crops, the same thing.
Flowers and stuff like that. So, what's new, Pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Do you know that song?
Do I know that song?
Who sang it?
It was in the jukebox all the time.
Who sang it?
Elvis Presley.
Tom Jones.
Oh.
Okay, here we go.
I know Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy too.
Oh, I can sing that.
No,
too.
You cannot. No, you can't.
Well, I can. I know all the words. Kind of. Until
Just
I get
don't know any of the tones.
And then it's like going into a tunnel. So, what's our topic today?
Well,
Bobbi?
since you started to decide that you were going to be a world famous singer, let's talk about the time that everybody decided that they were going to be famous online because we were stuck in our houses.
Oh,
yeah, we are going to talk about 2019, the end of 2019, the COVID pandemic begins.
Ouch.
Yes.
Yeah, not a good time for us, that's for sure.
Not at all. And so for our listeners, I'm sure everybody remembers, if you're old enough to be listening to us, I hope you remember. So the COVID-19 pandemic, also known as coronavirus and COVID. So it's caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. Now, it began with an outbreak of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China in December of 2019.
Liar!
Put your political shit away. All right. So soon after, it did spread to other areas of Asia and then worldwide in early 2020.
Oh, my goodness.
So let's talk about this. Let's talk about a bunch of different aspects of this, from the shutdowns to the vaccines, the just all out just panic that everybody went through.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it from our point of view, because we really can't do anything except say what we saw on TV, and we know most of that's bullshit.
Well, and there's nothing we can do about the bad decision making that took place over that time period and what transpired. All we can do is say, what were we doing and how did we handle it and how did it affect us? So, obviously, the vaccines and the actions that were taken to control the virus were kind of crucial roles in avoiding the spread of the virus and reducing any type of severe illnesses as much as it could. But, we just, it's unfortunate because we just had so much misinformation out there that it was difficult for everybody. I personally was never an advocate for the shots.
For the vaccines.
Yeah, I was never an advocate for that.
I was kind of on the fence because my deep down intuition was like, this is too new.
Yeah.
These vaccines have not been tested. They haven't had the long-term tests like other vaccines have had. And everybody's panicking. So
and there was so much blame going around for everything.
Yeah, and I guess I just didn't understand that part. Everybody wanted to make it political, personal, revenge, hateful thing, and it's like, look, people are dying, we're getting sick. Can we just stop for a minute? And unfortunately, the governments did make us stop for a minute because they put us under lockdown. March 26, 2020, 1.7 billion people worldwide were under some form of lockdown.
Yeah.
It increased to 3.9 billion people in the first week of April. That's more than half the world's population.
Yeah. And so what happened was, obviously there were decisions made that, you couldn't go out of your house, you couldn't go to work. Some
Only
people
essential workers.
Yeah, essential workers. And what's an essential worker, right?
Right. Because I tell you what, a gas station worker is an essential worker, apparently.
Hey, my mailman's an essential worker when I need a check. So,
Exactly.
So everybody to me, and we worked through the whole thing. I worked in the energy business, and we worked a lot of hours during that time period. We didn't have any choice. Now, what we were required to do was we had to separate ourselves from each other. So that was really difficult when you're trying to work with crews and, get jobs done. And
well, yeah, because not everything can be done over a radio.
And it can't be done by one person.
Right.
A lot of times it has to be done by multiple people and working in small spaces. And I think the worst part for me was probably the fact that I didn't mind going to work every day. That was fine by me. I didn't have anything else to do. But it was really the fact that people were kept from their loved ones.
Right.
That was the tough one. I guess we won't necessarily talk about whether we think it was right or wrong, because again, there were a lot of bad decisions made, but there was a lot of bad information given out to us too. And had we had good information, and, everybody wasn't worried about blaming each other, maybe things would have turned out differently. But I will say this, and I didn't have any relatives that were in a home dying during that time period. But I will tell you this, I would have gone to see them and I would have pulled them out of those nursing homes, because if they're dying anyway, come on over to my house and you can die here with your family. But, yeah. And
so let me ask you, did you have your traveling papers?
I did.
You were issued your traveling papers?
I was. And
that kind of shook me.
Yeah. The reason I had everything was because my company required it. And I was still working at the time.
And mine did too.
Yeah. And so my company was adamant that you absolutely had to have your shots and you had to carry your papers and all that bull stuff.
And I mean, they were literally papers that say, I am an essential worker. I am allowed to be in public or driving. That shook me. I'm going to tell you what, as a history buff and, somebody who actually enjoys nerding out over things, reading those papers, that kind of shook me, because it was like, first of all, they didn't have to word them like that. Right. Okay. And second of all, I was just waiting for the patches on our coats that we would have to wear saying that we were vaccinated, so we were allowed to walk to the store.
Well, you had to carry papers, right?
Right.
You had to carry your vaccinations.
Yep.
And let's face it, there was a lot of hate. I mean, just so much hate between people. I know even my friends.
It tore people apart. It tore friendships of 30 years apart.
Yeah. I mean, we had friends who said, hey, listen, you can come over and we'll do this outside, but don't come over if you didn't have your shots. Okay, that's cool. You can make that decision. It's your house. But then other people would get mad that you didn't even get the shot. And it's like, again, I can't talk about this and not give my opinion. I think it's your business whether you get the shot or whether you don't. Now, if you're sick, stay home, and I don't care what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's the whole thing. And let's face it, what did we actually learn out of this whole thing? To wash your hands and stay 6 feet away from people. Thank you, scientists, for that. Other than that, nobody learned anything.
True.
Wash your hands.
That is true.
On a regular basis and stay 6 feet away. Well, you don't need to be in anybody's space anyway.
No.
So,
6 feet is mandatory. I would prefer 12.
Yeah.
Stand over there. Yeah. Get away from me.
And because you got that anger issue going on.
I don't like strangers, stranger danger.
Well, I don't like people getting into my space either, but if you think about it, that is all we were taught out of the entire thing. What else did you learn? Nothing.
Well, yeah, that is true. And let's talk about our experiences with the vaccine, since we touched on that. So we both had the vaccine.
We did.
I took the vaccine because I was poor and my company said, you get a bonus paycheck if you come and get the vaccine from our company, and we will continue to allow you to work in our stores.
What a crock of crap.
If we didn't get it, we were not allowed to work anymore, and we wouldn't get that bonus. So, I mean, it was kind of, it was almost like, we all know that the people working in the stores that I used to work at, I mean, they were working for bottom dollar. They were going paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to take off work. They couldn't afford to not get that bonus. So I think a lot of it was very
I think people were trapped. I think people were trapped in what their decisions were going to be.
They were. And I went and got it because I was one of those people in that situation. And I got the shot that my company offered, which was the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, because it was one shot and it was done. Not even a month after that, I find out that my vaccine has been recalled for things that I'm actually at risk for.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the misinformation that was thrown out there, because they knew about it beforehand and they said, no, it's fine. It's fine. You know, if 1 in 20 people dies from a blood clot, so be it. You know, we got 19 more.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was my experience with it. My children, my older 3 children did get the shot. They got the 2 series shot. They did that because the schools were starting to require it.
Okay.
And if I didn't get the shot for my kids and I didn't send them to school, I would end up in truancy court.
Okay.
So it was another catch-22.
Yeah, you were required to.
It was required for sports, anything that they decided to hold at that point. If you were not vaccinated, you were not welcome.
Yeah, but they weren't even having sports, right? Unless you were outside and you weren't touching
and they
anybody.
were, yeah. I mean, they were having very limited gatherings, you know, and when the schools shut down, of course, there was no school.
Right.
But when they did start to open up, there was not that option given for a lot of families.
And I just want to stop right here and say, listen, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, we're not politicians, we're really nobodies that know nothing. And we just like to share our nothingness with everyone. Because really, these are our experiences and how we feel about them.
And what we went through.
And what we went through, yeah. And I'm not sure that Bobbi agrees with what I say by any. I don't even know that we ever really talked about it to know
we touched on it a few times. But we had some differing, because you do have, you know, the germ issue and things like that. So you are more of I don't know, an activist when it comes to, you know, what we had to do for COVID, the masks, the you know, cleaning hands, gloves, staying away from people, things like that. But I also know that you were not an advocate of these companies shutting down and putting these people out of work.
I was not by any stretch. Every closed door, whether it was during COVID or after COVID, every closed door represented a family.
Right.
And every family was suffering from what was going on. And the decision makers are our government, who, you know how I feel about them anyway. Worst decision makers there are. And as it turns out, even our medical professionals were the worst decision makers too. But, you know, the fact is it was a pandemic. We were going to lose people. It's not going to be the last pandemic we have in my lifetime, nor yours.
No.
And so I think people need to just understand, listen, you have to make good decisions now. And so the pandemic, for the most part, is getting little attention. And once in a while, you'll talk about a new strain or whatever, and somebody will bring it up. But right now, it's getting little to no attention media-wise, because it's not a political gain right now.
Right.
And all I can say is, again, this isn't going to be the last one. Take the steps you need to take right now. Quit waiting for the government or some bonehead to tell you to wash your hands or stay 6 feet away from somebody.
Quit telling them to put duct tape over your vents to prevent the air from getting inside. Oh my gosh.
So I got the shot initially because my company required us to. And so then I got, I will tell you, the planes were still flying during that time period, and people said, you need to stay home.
Yeah.
And I was wearing my stupid ass mask, mother, and just in the stupidest situations, and people were but it's panic. It's panic because you don't understand and because you're not getting the right information.
And how many times, I mean, just me and you, our experiences, how many times did you get COVID?
I got it 3 times.
I got it 3 times.
Yeah. And
it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, my second one was really bad.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had told you kids initially, just from reading everything, because COVID isn't new. Now,
No.
COVID-19 is new, but COVID,
It's the strain.
It's
Yeah.
the strain, right? And one of the things I said to you is, if I get it so bad that I have to go in the hospital, do not let them put me on a ventilator.
Right.
They can put me on oxygen, but do not put me on a ventilator. For the love of God, do not let them do that. And I also said, if you get it, sleep sitting up.
Yep.
And that's what we did. And I
pound
said,
on your back.
and I
yeah.
said, even though you're not going to feel like getting up and walking around, I need you to get up and walk around.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And to be honest, I think that's probably what kind of saved us, because I had it really bad the second time.
Yeah.
And I'm old and I've got, I was at risk.
Yeah.
And I have autoimmune disorders. I did just fine. Now, it may have been because I was in good shape and I was strong and whatever else. But you guys did too. And we kind of followed a regime. We were like, okay, if this happens to you, make sure that this, you do this. Make
Yeah.
sure you do this. Make sure you do this.
Yep.
And we weren't really depending on somebody else. We were kind of walking through it and saying what makes sense to us.
Right.
I did end up getting the booster. That was because I was traveling at that time. And people would go, "Oh my God, you're traveling?" And I'd go, "Yeah, and now's the best time to be traveling." Because there wasn't but 3 people in the airport every time I flew, and there couldn't have been more than 3
Yeah.
people on a plane.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the best.
I would have went had I been able to afford
Yeah,
it.
and they handed you these little wet wipes, which I love, of
course.
course. And I had my little spray with me, and it was like, this is the best time to be traveling. I was traveling all over hell and back during that time period, because I thought, I don't have to have some bonehead breathing all over me,
Right.
coughing on me. I got nothing.
It sorted itself out.
It was great.
And a lot of people did panic, and I mean, rightfully so, with the information they were given. Now, let's talk about. I don't know if you know what led to this, but do you remember when it first started happening, the toilet paper panic?
Oh my goodness!
Do you know how that started? Because
do I know
I do.
exactly how it
Do you
started?
do you know how and why it started?
Let's go with it.
All right.
I don't know.
So, stupid Americans are watching overseas news and see that Australia is under a shortage of paper products like toilet paper. Now, somewhere in our 2 brain cells that we share as Americans, we rubbed them together and said, "Oh my God, they're running out of toilet paper. We need 53 packs of toilet paper for the 2 of us just to make sure we can wipe our asses through this." What they didn't realize...
We ran out of toilet paper during that time period. I had to scoot across the
Get a
lawn.
bidet.
Oh, just go to the gas station and steal some. It's fine. But, and we see this and we're like, oh my God, this, toilet paper is like the new gold. What we as Americans didn't realize is that Australia is a huge import country. They get 99% of their paper products from China. The reason they were having a paper shortage is because they had shut down trade to China because of the virus. Had nothing to do with their factories or anything. We make toilet paper in the United States,
Yes.
folks.
Yes.
I mean, read the package,
Yeah.
okay? We didn't have that issue until the
Somebody-
Americans go,
yeah.
"Oh my God, I got to wipe my butt for the next 5 years." And they go out and they panic buy this stuff, not
Yep.
realizing we can make more. Just buy what you're going to regularly use, and there's not going to be this issue.
Yep.
Now in Australia, yeah, it was a shit show, man. I feel for them because they had to fight for every inch over there. But here we have our own factories. And a lot of this panic buying, that's what happened. We have our own factories. We're making our own stuff. These idiots out here think we're importing everything.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was, and again, it really kind of gets back to so much misinformation and who you were listening to.
Right.
And, I really, when I'm researching stuff, I like to look at the actual reports. I don't listen to local news. I don't listen to the national news. I don't really pay any attention to that. If somebody is saying, "Oh, so-and-so said this," I want to see what was said on the Senate floor.
Yeah.
I want to see what the actual
I don't even trust the
research.
Senate floor, but
Well, I want to know what the research actually said, and usually you can get some of that
right, you
information.
can get research papers
Yeah.
directly from them.
And so, the more you read, it was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Where are these people getting this information to pass around type of thing?
Yeah. So what'd you say, Dr. Domain?
I didn't say anything.
You said get a bidet.
Oh, get a bidet, yeah.
Oh, those were skyrocketing and people buying them.
Stock and bidet.
Now people don't want to go back.
So
Use the
I know.
Oh,
So
there's nothing better.
So we had one at the Georgia house, the previous Georgia house.
Two.
Yeah.
I was had two of them. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is like old people stuff right here. You know,
Oh, no.
they
I had
are
them
nice.
after I gave birth, they have them in the hospital in the bathrooms usually. And I'm just like, I'm
They
in
are
heaven. Like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I think the first indicator I got that we were being scammed on this whole thing was when I was looking at the data that was coming out of Johns Hopkins, which you would expect to be a reputable source of data.
Right.
You would think.
I started noticing a trend after probably a couple months where they would track statistics of fatalities,
Yes.
not even knowing definitively if it was due to the coronavirus.
Right.
But they took a swing at it, and they provided this data. Every Sunday, no one died. It was crazy.
That was the Lord's Day.
Yeah, it was a day of rest. Yeah. So, I think this is going to go down in history as one of the biggest
Scams.
we got
Screw-ups.
bamboozled,
But
whatever
you
you
know-
want to say, because I think it was the largest example of government overreach,
Yep.
infringement of our rights.
I think it was a test. I really do. I think it
And
was a test
I think
on
it
how
was
we
blown
would
out of
react.
proportion.
Way.
This was not the big pandemic. There
No.
are much larger pandemics
That
out
will
there.
be coming. Yes.
Well, there was the Black Death.
Yeah.
There was.
We still have the plague.
Their Spanish flu killed more people.
Yeah.
And there were even less people on the planet at that time. And AIDS has killed more people.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is not all that they trumped it up to be.
To me, it was nothing but a political battle. That was all it was. I'm going to blame you. You discovered this. Oh, it happened under your watch. Oh my gosh, you've got misinformation coming out. Oh, who did this? Who did that? Which side did they belong to? And it really just gets to a point where, are you really interested in the people, or are you just wearing that banner that you're raising real high? Because you really need to be worried about Americans as opposed to what party you are, and quit being a pawn to that particular political party.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there weren't consequences to this.
Oh,
I think we waited too long to fully disclose the origins of it. And
Yeah.
it looks, from what I've read and what I've heard, it originated in Wuhan in some wet market, probably
Right.
someone licking a bat or whatever the hell they were doing.
Pretty much.
putting one in their butt.
Honestly, I think it was a test. I think it was another experiment
Yeah.
just to see what would happen if
I
it
don't
really
disagree.
was bigger than this, because they got a lot of data from us.
Yep.
They
did.
realized how freaking stupid we are.
But
Yep.
the most disturbing thing that I've heard so far in y'all's conversation is the fact that, Bobby, you got bribed.
Yes.
You did. You got bribed.
I did.
And that
To
is-
survive, just
Yeah.
to survive.
Yeah, because they're dangling a job over your head.
Correct.
And, you
And
gotta
a bonus.
You got to have the money. And where does it stop?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I think it was a test. It was another experiment. It was basically a worldwide Tuskegee experiment.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of data from us. They
Yeah.
got a lot from us as
did.
human beings, not only in America, across the world, on what's going to happen. How are they going to handle it? What if they do this? How easily can we convince these people
Right.
of what we say when they are in
Right.
panic mode?
Right, exactly. And I totally agree with that. And the other thing is they're still collecting data, but it's not stuff that they're sharing with
Right.
us.
Right.
That's the whole thing, is if you think the 8 o'clock news or 10 o'clock news is sharing data, they're just trying to get ratings. They don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah, they'll
whether
throw
they give
numbers.
us-
They
yeah.
don't care.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist because
No, bring it. We
That's
are.
your job.
That's my job. That's right. That's
I don't
right.
want to put her out of work, but yeah, I think that's true. There's a certain amount of information that we're not getting.
Yeah.
A lot of misinformation. And I think, I do believe there's probably a group out there, and it's albeit small, that is trying to get the information to us.
Yeah.
But it's
But
coming
they-
from different channels. We in the past expected it to come from mainstream media because
Right.
they were the source, you know,
Right.
the big 3-letter type
trusted
of
source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But now we're finding that they're losing their credibility, and now people are grasping for real news and trying to find out what actually did happen.
And a lot of it is social media too, because
Right.
we're allowed to go live
Garbage out there,
and
too.
show what's going on where we are when the news has the camera pointed the other way.
Right. And there was just so much hate on social media.
Oh, yeah. There was hate everywhere.
Did you get a shot? No, you didn't get a shot? Oh, my God, you should be put
You're
to
a
death.
child abuser if you don't get your kids
it was
these
just,
shots.
It was just
and-
crazy how much hate was going on. It's like, wait a second. Any other time you say my body, and now all of a sudden it's not?
right.
It's not my decision anymore?
Right.
I think it was proof to show how weak and spineless the American population is.
It's-
hate
I
to
don't
say-
think it's just
I don't want to say that.
Americans,
I don't
though.
want to say that about my
Right.
own country, but I think there's some truth
I think
to
it's
it.
more countries than America.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it from our perspective, but through the lens of being American, looking at fellow Americans, it was like we just kind of bent over and took it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the movie A Bug's Life. So it's a kid's movie, but it's, thousands of ants versus a handful of grasshoppers. And these grasshoppers overpower these ants and make them believe what they want
Right.
and make them serve them until they literally, die of exhaustion, until the ants realize, hey, there's a lot more of us than there is of them.
But that's what's going on in our government right now.
It has been.
Yeah,
It has
you
been.
know.
And this was one of the biggest, I think, shows of this system that people did not pay attention to because they whipped them up in a panic so bad. And people were in panic mode.
Yes.
They were in survival mode, and some of them still are.
Oh, absolutely.
And so speaking of media, though, is there a media source that you trust above the others specifically?
No. There
No?
not right now. Not for me. There isn't.
Okay.
I think that whoever you're listening to can sway you.
Yeah.
Has one way of swaying than another. I kind of just take it in and I go, does that sound right? Let me look at that.
See, I'm weird. So I get American news from Al Jazeera TV and BBC, basically, because
I do listen to
when it comes
BBC,
to
yeah.
American news, they don't really have a huge,
They
dog
don't-
in this fight.
Yeah.
They don't
They're
have
not
a
vested in
biggest
us.
reason to lie.
Yeah.
And so, Al Jazeera TV was my go-to for a lot of what was going on.
So what were some of the detriments during that pandemic? I talked about, we had the nursing homes where they wouldn't even let you in to see
The hospitals,
the hospitals,
nursing homes.
also funerals. They wouldn't
Funerals.
even let you
Nope.
get together for a funeral.
No.
It's like, are you on crack?
Nope, funerals, births. Okay, the woman has to give birth alone.
And it's like, what in the hell is going
Like,
on?
how traumatic is that? How
Yeah.
traumatic is that?
It's terrible. And then, but we had, and don't get me wrong, I do have some feelings for people who said, "Oh, my kid didn't get to go graduate and walk across the stage," or
That's tough, though.
yeah.
That's a pivotal point in a child's growth and development.
It
and,
is.
We had a lot of kids that went into either college or high school or even
Or the
middle
military.
school,
Or the
any of
military.
it. And for 4 or 5 years, they couldn't see other people.
Yeah.
They had to do everything online. They had to isolate. They had to, stay away from other people. And they were raised in this environment of social isolation.
Yeah.
How do you expect someone who is learning to be an adult to spend 4 years in social isolation and then come out okay?
I don't think we did a good job of handling that psychologically by any stretch.
There
I mean,
was no psychological handling of it because I don't think they gave a shit.
No.
I mean, we're dealing with the aftermath because we have to deal with it, but there was nothing put in place to try to avert these medical issues, these psychological issues that were going to come up,
And-
because we knew about it. We knew about it from other things that had happened.
And I will say that, obviously I'm not the sensitive type. So when it comes to a lot of the things that did happen, I kind of have that buck up attitude.
That's why I'm undiagnosed.
Yeah. But I kind of have that buck up attitude, when somebody says, "Oh, my kid didn't get to go here," or whatever, I'm kind of a buck up, that back in the day, look how many kids graduated and walked across the stage to get to Vietnam. That's where they went for their senior
Yeah, but
trip.
it wasn't fair for them either. So
No, it
it's
wasn't.
apples and oranges.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. But I'm just saying that
That's your
when
point
I
of view
think
of it.
about when I think about what was hurtful, I think the number of closed doors, the number of mom and pop stores that went under. They sure as hell didn't close down Wells Fargo. They didn't close down any of the big corporations. BlackRock was still going. Vanguard was still going. All of these people were still having board meetings. They were all running their shows, but all these mom and pop places had to shut down. Every door was a family. And that's what you did to the American people, not just the American people, a lot of people.
Well, yeah, because it was a trickle down effect. You have not only the owners of the store, you have the distributors. Now they have to put out half of their workforce.
And to think that somebody can recover from that. And then you look around and you go, oh, all those buildings are empty, and they have been since COVID, or, somebody lost their house, or these
all
people
these
lost
houses in foreclosure,
or
and these families are homeless now.
And a lot of these families that still just have never recovered financially, never recovered financially. And, you look and you say, who did that to us?
The government did.
Yeah, they did.
They forced us. They didn't
did.
give us a choice as the people. They forced us into this corner, and it was a survival mode. It was, do or die out there for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people that lost everything.
And the ridiculousness of the stuff, if you wear 2 masks.
Oh, God. I couldn't even breathe in one. You're talking
It'll
to a
work
fat
better
girl.
if you wear 2 masks, or if you wear a face shield. I remember going to a gas station. I was pumping my gas. And when you're outside, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I wasn't wearing a mask.
I wouldn't either.
I was complying with.
I want to breathe
with everybody's requirements. Do you need to wear a mask? Okay, I'll play the game. I'll do that. But I was outside pumping my gas, and this other lady was behind me, and she was pumping her gas, and she goes, "Where's your mask?"
I'd have been like, bend over.
And I looked at her, and I go, "What?" She goes, "Where's your mask? You're supposed to be wearing a mask." I go, "Doesn't yours work?" I mean. You're wearing that to protect you. I don't need you to protect me.
And the things that irritated me about the masks were, one, people driving alone in their own vehicle with the windows up with a mask on.
God.
Okay.
Or outside walking.
Look, people, for the love of God. And 2, the ones that would wear the mask below their nose that only covered their mouth. Yeah. I'm like, do you know how breathing works? Yeah. Like, did you take an anatomy class in high school? Did they cut this out? And it's just ridiculous.
So we have pictures of our family. I believe it was Easter when
we illegally gathered.
Well, we didn't though,
did.
because we all wore masks and we were at the house. But we were illegally gathered.
We were, because it was more than 6 people.
We had pictures of us all separated up, out in the yard.
What?
What?
Huh?
What do you mean illegal?
You couldn't gather
more than 6 people at a time in a gathering, and they had to be outside, and they had to stay 6 feet apart with masks on.
We were outside. We had masks on and all that crap.
Stupidest thing.
Yeah.
I just noticed the difference. Oh, go ahead. Finish your story.
No, go ahead. No,
I noticed the difference. Like the state of Georgia handled it quite differently than like California and some of the other states, because there were some differences there. Like school reconvened much quicker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the whole mask thing, that just kind of got brushed aside for the most part. We had someone visit from, I think it was California or something like that. And they're like, well, how come no one's wearing a mask?
Well, because we don't buy into that
We're
crap.
living our lives.
Yeah. We're living our lives.
Born free.
That damn pandemic can't handle us down here.
And again,
They ain't making it to Georgia.
we'll run that out of town. We'll get down the county. And again, we're not doctors, and we're not trying to start any arguments here. We're just really talking about how it affected us. And, we're not scientists, but we had to live through it too.
Right. And we have a heap of understanding and just everything for the people who did lose loved ones to this
gosh,
virus
yes.
because it was an
Absolutely.
absolutely horrific thing.
Absolutely.
To not only have someone who you are losing to the virus, but you can't even go tell them goodbye.
Right. And
horrible.
We lost good friends.
We
There's
did.
no doubt about
Yep.
it. And it's a sad situation. And, again, there by the grace of God go you and I, because it could have been us.
Could have
but,
been.
It wasn't. And we're thankful for that. But, again, get ready for the next one, folks.
Because the government needs another test subject here.
They need more information.
They need more info that they
on
will
some
never tell us.
bogus things. So get ready for it. And just, do your own.
Wash your damn hands.
Wash your hands and stay out of people's space.
Quit blowing your nose
will
in public.
Get a bidet.
And get a bidet.
And get a bidet.
Invest in a bidet.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what do you think, Bobby?
I think that is all the insanity that we have for today. We appreciate you joining us here at the Rabbit Hole Studio. Be sure to follow us because we look forward to spending time with you each and every week. Please like us, and if you have positive feedback for us, or if there's a topic you want to discuss, or if you have your own story that you just want to tell us and not tell the rest of the world, hey, drop a short email at boomerandgenxer@gmail.com. You can tell us that you don't want us to say anything on the air, and we will totally respect your anonymity.
She said that without screwing it up. I wish I could do that.
So if you have hate mail, you know where you can put it. And until next week, I'm Bobby Joy.
And I'm Jane Burt.
And you're stuck with us.
Peace out.
Later.